In this video, I'm going to count down my top 10 must-read Star Wars comics from the original 1977 run. When you look at what the writers and artists did on that book, with only 1, 2, or 3 movies to draw inspiration from, the original comics are truly a magnificent accomplishment and a time capsule to a period when Star Wars was fresh and exciting. I want to thank Kevin 2.1 for the idea for this video. Those of you who follow me make these videos possible, and I cannot thank you enough for feedback and encouragements. On with the countdown. Star Wars number 86, The Alderaan Factor. Randy Stradley was the senior editor for the Dark Horse Star Wars line of comic books from 2002 until they lost the license in 2014. His very first comic book work, however, is as the writer of Star Wars number 86 for Marvel, titled The Alderaan Factor. What an incredible first outing he had. In a story that takes place before Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia travels to Yinchor on behalf of the rebellion. The shuttle she is aboard is shot down by Imperial TIE fighters, and Leia is forced to work with an Imperial stormtrooper in order to survive a trek across the planet's hostile surface. It turns out the stormtrooper is also from Alderaan, setting up a tale where both Leia and the stormtrooper must come to terms with their choices in the galactic conflict between the rebellion and the Empire. There is plenty of action and a heartbreaking ending which sets this issue apart from many of the others. There are a few comics where Princess Leia went solo on a mission for the rebellion, and my number 9 pick is also one of these stories. Star Wars number 30, A Princess Alone. There are hundreds of Imperial factory planets throughout the galaxy, and Princess Leia visits one such planet, Mandalore, in Star Wars number 30, titled A Princess Alone. These worlds have awful conditions for the inhabitants unfortunate enough to live on them. Much like the dystopian future depicted in George Orwell's 1984 novel, Imperial forces control every aspect of a native's life, forcing them to work in inhumane conditions to extract the resources from the planet needed by the Empire. I'm fond of this story because it shows the true extent of evil the Empire is willing to go to achieve total domination over the galaxy. Too often we are told the Empire is bad, but it is never shown. This story reveals the depravity the galactic regime is capable of. Leia is planting the seed of rebellion with her visit, which the Empire is desperate to prevent. When Biggs Darklighter asks Luke, "What good is all your uncle's work if he ends up merely a tenant soon, slaving away for the greater glory of the Empire?" this planet exemplifies the future Biggs is warning Luke about. Drawn by Carmine Infantino and written by Archie Goodwin, this story is easily one of my top 10 picks. Star Wars number 61, Screams in the Void. Shara Bree is an important character to Star Wars mythology and a prototype of sorts for Mara Jade. Her story spans several comics, but if I had to choose a single issue in her arc, it would be Star Wars number 61, titled Screams in the Void. Shara is awarded a medal from the rebellion at the beginning of this issue. Later, Commander Luke Skywalker leads 3 other rebel pilots on a mission to infiltrate the largest Imperial armada ever assembled. The reason for such a huge gathering of Imperial warships is because they have captured an alien creature capable of instantaneous communication across the galaxy and are transporting it back to the Empire's homeworld. This creature would tilt the conflict in the Empire's favor, and it is imperative the rebels stop them. One of the other pilots with Luke is Shara Bree, and they are using TIE fighters to blend into the Imperial fleet. The TIE fighters are equipped with special transceiver signals to allow them to identify friend from foe, but when the rebels attack, the Imperials are able to jam this communication. Luke is about to attack their main target, the flagship Imperial Star Destroyer containing the creature, but a single TIE fighter sits between him and his goal. He uses the Force to determine the TIE fighter is unfriendly and strikes, destroying the smaller craft. After a successful hit on the Star Destroyer, he jumps into hyperspace and returns to the rebel base on Arbra. There, he learns the TIE fighter he destroyed was flown by Shara Bree. If that is not a gut-punching ending, I don't know what is. What makes this issue so good is the writer David Michelini and the artist Walt Simonson had spent a few issues building up Shara as a likable character and a possible love interest for Luke. Subsequent issues deal with the fallout of this comic, including Luke having a crisis of faith with the Force. We learned in Star Wars number 63 that Shara Bree was an Imperial agent sent by Darth Vader to infiltrate the rebellion to kill or discredit Luke. Additionally, that issue reveals Vader retrieved Shira's body from the wreckage and she is alive. Star Wars number 96, Duel with a Dark Lady. In Star Wars number 88, a new villain is introduced named Lumia, who is a cyborg and has an intense hatred for the rebellion. Lumia returns in Star Wars number 95, easily defeating Luke Skywalker and taking his lightsaber. Star Wars number 96 expands on that duel in a story titled Duel with the Dark Lady. Luke Skywalker confronts Lumia, who wields a light whip. She defeats him and takes him prisoner. We learn from the Nagai Den that Lumia has an intense hatred for Luke. Later in the story, Luke is rescued by Kiro and he fashions another lightsaber of sorts from equipment that Kiro is carrying. Luke then goes to retrieve his lightsaber from Lumia. Luke is able to beat her while fighting with two lightsabers. We learn that Lumia is really Shira Bree, now a cyborg, due to mechanical parts needed to keep her alive. She was Darth Vader's apprentice. I'm not a fan of most of the issues that paired the writer of Joe Duffy with artist Cynthia Martin, but Star Wars number 96 is the exception. This issue avoids the over-the-top humor that plagued the end of this title's run to deliver a serious, action-packed meeting between Luke Skywalker and his former girlfriend Shira Bree. Here, Martin's manga-style art works and is a glimpse into what could have been if this creative duo had suppressed their penchant for outlandish humor. Star Wars number 38, Riders in the Void. Star Wars number 38 is a filler issue titled Riders in the Void. Filler issues are typically subpar, but this comic is anything but. With artwork by Michael Golden, this issue is easily the best drawn Star Wars comic at the time it came out. Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker are young and sexy, and the Imperial hardware shows Golden's technical expertise. Additionally, his page layouts are dynamic and refreshing. As for the story by Archie Goodwin, we are treated to a unique Star Wars tale that takes us beyond the known galaxy into the Black Void. There, our heroes enter a biomechanical organism that believes they are part of a game concocted by the ship's computer. Once it realizes they are real, the ship returns the pair to the known galaxy and assists them with defeating the Imperial Star Destroyer that was pursuing them at the story's outset. Feeling this conflict is too real, the organism returns to the void to continue its existence of playing games. It is unfortunate we did not get to see any more Star Wars work by Michael Golden. He achieved notoriety on Micronauts and would have been a terrific regular artist on the Star Wars title. Star Wars number 80, Ellie. My number 5 pick, Star Wars number 80, contains a poignant tale called Ellie. Our heroes have been pursuing the missing Tay Vanis for several issues, but the hunt for this elusive rebel operative ends with this comic. Luke, Leia, and C-3PO end up on an unnamed planet and befriend a manifest droid named Ellie-914, or Ellie. The droid directs Luke and Leia to a nearby castle, which they infiltrate and find the captured Tay Vanis. Unfortunately, Darth Vader beat them to this rebel, and Tay Vanis is a broken man both physically and mentally. Ellie hands the tapes Tay was protecting to C-3PO and asks the heroes to depart the cell. When they leave, Ellie cradles Vanis's broken body and self-destructs. Luke and Leia blow up the castle and contact Admiral Akbar, letting him know they have recovered the tapes. These are the tapes for the second Death Star. This story, written by Joe Duffy and drawn by Ron Frenz, is powerful and again shows how evil the Empire is and how cruel Darth Vader can be. I'm fond of these stories because they reaffirm the rebels are heroes and not simply a group of terrorists. This is the last tale before the return of the Jedi, and it is hard to believe Luke feels he can redeem Vader after having witnessed the outcome of his horrible treatment of Vanis. Star Wars number 15, Star Duel. Crimson Jack and Jolly were introduced in Star Wars number 7, having stolen the treasure given to Han Solo and Chewbacca after rescuing Princess Leia from the Death Star. Crimson Jack is an old acquaintance of Han's who leads a pirate gang that operates from a previously derelict Star Destroyer. He is prone to fits of anger, and Jack is livid that Han escaped him, and he is out for his blood. Jolly is Jack's second in command, and has a hatred for men, and Han Solo in particular. Circumstances in the story leave both the Star Destroyer and the Millennium Falcon in need of repairs to leave the Drexel system. The Star Destroyer had its Navi computer wiped clean by Chewbacca, so it needs chart tapes the Falcon has. The Falcon collided with Jolly's Y-Wing fighter, so it needs parts that the Star Destroyer has. Jack agrees to meet Han in space between the two spacecraft to exchange the chart tapes for the parts. When Jolly contacts the Star Destroyer asking for help, Jack dismisses her, which ultimately leads to his demise. Both Han and Jack planned to betray the other when they met in space, but Jack brought his crew with him to tilt the conflict in his favor. Jolly uses the Y-Wing fighter to shoot the other pirates with Jack, and while Jack is distracted, Han shoots him dead. This was another masterpiece by writer Archie Goodwin and artist Carmine Infantino. All of our main heroes are present in this story, but Han Solo takes center stage. This is the Han we are introduced to in Star Wars who shoots Greedo first without hesitation. Star Wars number 52, To Take the Tarkin. Star Wars number 52 is titled To Take the Tarkin. It is the second David Michelini and Walt Simonson comic to make this list. If I was creating a top 10 list featuring my favorite story arcs, Star Wars number 51 and 52 would top that list. This list is comprised of the top issues, however, so I chose Star Wars number 52, which alone doesn't capture the top spot. There is a lot going on in Star Wars number 52, which easily would comprise 3 or more issues in a modern comic. Our heroes infiltrate the Tarkin, a superweapon fashioned after the planet-destroying laser cannon found on the original Death Star, and split up. Lando is on the nearby planet Hakaleg, ensuring the local Imperial garrison leaves the Millennium Falcon alone. And Darth Vader is almost blown out and airlocked by mutinous Imperial officers who are fed up with his harsh treatment of their peers. This comic has many callbacks to the original Star Wars movie, specifically those scenes that take place aboard the Death Star, but also introduce new elements that keep the story fresh. Lando is handled well here, not quite trusted by the others, but ultimately integral to their escape. The most brilliant element of the story, however, is the attempted assassination of Vader by the Imperial officers. It just makes sense that there are Imperials who are none too happy about Darth Vader's tactics and would want to remove him permanently. Star Wars number 50, The Crimson Forever. My number 2 pick is the oversized issue Star Wars number 50 titled The Crimson Forever. This story is one of the last Star Wars comics by Archie Goodwin and features artwork by Al Williamson and Walt Simonson. It is an ambitious tale dealing with a threat to the entire galaxy, rebels and Imperials alike. Luke leads a boarding party onto an Imperial Star Destroyer to discover the entire crew is dead, their skin turned a sickly crimson color while their eyes stare into nothingness. Every member of Luke's team dies from the highly infectious disease dubbed the Crimson Forever, except Luke himself, who is barely clinging to life. There are 2 jewels that, when separated from each other, causes the malady. One of the jewels was on board the Star Destroyer. It turns out Han Solo and Chewbacca were sent on a heist years ago to retrieve the 2 jewels in the Red Nebula, an area of space beyond the known galaxy. This was a nice way to include Han in the tale after he was taken by Boba Fett on Cloud City. In the flashback, Han and Chewie ultimately decide to leave the gems on the planet with a priest due to the deadly disease they cause. The rebels, led by Leia, head to the Red Nebula but run into a House of Tag spacecraft which they investigate and discover also has been plagued by the Crimson Forever. It turns out Domina Tag had retrieved the gems from the Red Nebula, but Darth Vader was suspicious of her activities and sent a Star Destroyer to intercept the Tag ship. A firefight broke out between the Imperials and Domina's bounty hunters, resulting in a jewel being taken by the Imperials and the other left on board the Tag ship. Domina agrees to let the rebels reunite the gems, saving her as well as Luke. The rebels place the 2 jewels onto the Star Destroyer and send it out into the void beyond the galaxy, which is a nice callback to Star Wars number 38. Unfortunately, this was the last story to feature Domina Tag or any member of the House of Tag. The bounty hunters Domina hires to retrieve the jewels include Dengar, IG-88, Forlom, and Bosk, and we also get an appearance by 21B, the rebel medical droid. While Luke is battling the Crimson Forever disease, he has a dream which shows him fighting Darth Vader while Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda provide guidance. Additionally, in the flashback story, one of the members of Han's crew is Dr. Evazan. This is really a fun tale with exceptional artwork by 2 classic comic book artists. Honorable mentions. Before I reveal my number 1 pick of must-read Star Wars comics, I'd like to present 3 honorable mentions. I believe the 10 books I picked for the list are the best of the best and are must-reads by any Star Wars fans, but these 3 issues were also strong contenders. In The Long Hunt from Star Wars Annual Number 1, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie are on a supply run to Tehran where they run into Karis, a Skytree who has past dealings with Han Solo. We also meet Katya, an old acquaintance of Han's, and travel to Sky where our heroes free the Skytree population from Imperial rule. It is a grand story that shows that not all leaders in the galaxy are unwilling participants in the Empire's takeover. Boba Fett returns in Star Wars number 81 titled Jawas of Doom. A fun but quirky tale, this story sees Boba freed from the Sarlacc pit only to fall back into it by the tale's end. This issue even speculates that Fett is a droid. Star Wars number 16 titled The Hunter is the first story in the Star Wars title not to feature any of our Rebel heroes. This tale introduces us to Valance the Bounty Hunter, who proves to be popular enough to be brought back into canon and starred in the 42-issue Bounty Hunter title. Star Wars number 29, Dark Encounter. There is a reason Valance was reintroduced into continuity, and I strongly feel Star Wars number 29 titled Dark Encounter is that reason. Valance had several appearances in the original run, starting with issue number 16, but this issue ends the arc for our favorite conflicted bounty hunter. Both Darth Vader and Valance race to the planet Centares, the location of Tyler Lucian, a rebel deserter who knows the name of the pilot that destroyed the Death Star. Valance intends to kill Lucian to keep Luke Skywalker's name a secret from the Empire, while Darth Vader is there to finally learn the name of the pilot that eluded him in the Death Star trenches. Darth Vader and Valance fight, and Valance is able to bring Vader to his knees, a feat that impresses Vader. Vader wants Valance to join him, but Valance rejects the offer. Ultimately, Vader is able to kill Valance, but the battle gives Tylan Lucian the courage to end his own life, denying Vader the name of the pilot, at least for now. Having Valance go toe-to-toe with Darth Vader elevates him above most characters introduced in the original Star Wars title. He is a nuanced anti-hero that was persuaded by Luke Skywalker and C-3PO to resist Imperial rule and bigotry. His courage to stand up to Vader to allow Luke the time needed to grow more powerful in the Force is instrumental in the ultimate downfall of the Empire. That is it for my top 10 must-read Star Wars comics from the original run. What do you think? Is there a favorite issue of yours that I missed? Would you order them differently? Please subscribe and leave me a comment letting me know what comics would make your top 10 must-read list.